Yes.
Okay, thank you guys for coming. Really an honor to be here amongst our rock star audience here. I feel like I'm the little schlub, but thank you guys. So I want to thank all of you for joining us today. This is going to be a panel discussion honoring our 100th centennial. I think most of you know it's 100. So this is our 5th talk in the series, and all of them have been recorded. They're all on our YouTube channel, so if there's any of them you've missed and want to get on, just go on our YouTube channel and watch away. Before I get started to talk, my talk is about the art at Fonda. I can't talk about the art at Fonda without talking about our docents. Our docents is a volunteer docent program. We have 40 professional, passionate, engaged leaders that we've trained as docents who do it all as volunteers. We're going to need it in a minute. These amazing folks offer guided tours of our collection Wednesday through Saturday from 10:30 to 11:30 every day, rain, shine, whatever. And because they are so good at what they do, they often get tips from the tours. So what do they do with their tips? They pool them, they donate them to charity. So since the program's inception in 2015, they've donated over $5,000 of their tips to local nonprofits. And this year, they chose the Las Vegas Community Disaster Relief Fund and the Santa Fe Food Depot as their charities for this year. So in the audience, you please stand up so we can recognize all of your work. We've got 40 and I can't talk about art without talking about our docents. So we've been collecting native art since the 20s. We have, as y'all know, museum quality art throughout the hotel, everywhere. The vast majority of our collection is paintings. One of my friends who's a jeweler at India Market said, "Jenny, why don't you trade me? I've got all this fabulous jewelry." And I'm like, my owners may not be really appreciative of me wearing your beautiful jewelry in trade for hotel rooms. So that's one of the reasons most of our art here is paintings. It's hard to display jewelry. Glassworks are harder, pottery's harder, but paintings. So we have most of our art is paintings. And I'm also thrilled to announce, I got to do a little PR, we were named one of the top 25 hotels to experience magnificent art by HHA this year. Quite an honor. So let's give that reflects our panel and everyone here. So I'm going to do a little kind of weird slideshow presentation compared to our experts. And when I woke up this morning, there was a quote in the paper that I want to read that like totally launches you into what I'm going to talk about. Quote, "Artists often talk about the importance of learning to see. That sounds pretty simple. We see all the time, every day. What's really meant by that is learning to see into and beyond the surface of things." That was in this morning's Pasa Tiempo by a painter, Ben Aronson. So that will launch me into seeing what art is. So let me see if I'm coordinated enough to do two things at once. So obviously, so my question is, what is art? Really, what is art at Fonda? This is our beautiful stormy canyon, Tony Abeta. I think everybody would say, yeah, that's art. These are Gerald Cassidy's. We have 11 Gerald Cassidy's in our collection that were commissioned by the Santa Fe Railroad. Cassidy lived from 1879 to 1943. I think everybody would agree that's art. So now it gets a little more questionable. So this is one of our guest rooms. On your right, you will see a Indian school piece. We have a lot of these in our guest rooms. I think most of you know the Dorothy Dunn Indian School. The print was done by Tewa Enterprises, and it's actually paint on poster board. Remember when you were a kid and you had the little paints? These are all hand colored by poster board. So yeah, that's art. We have a hand painted headboard. All of our headboards were hand painted by different artists. So I would say, yeah, y'all would all agree that's kind of art. So then you start walking down the halls of Fonda. This is actually a laundry chute. So we have the laundry chute hand painted that detail by an artist from Acoma named Corey Garcia. Again, that's art, but it's something you walk by every day and you might not think about as art. All right, so these are our guest room numbers to lead you around the hotel. So you look at it, you might not think about it, you're looking at, that's guest room 282, that's where my key fits, that's where I'm going. But when you stop and look at it, that is made from hand punched tin by an artist named Jen Kimberly Paulus. And each of these room numbers was hand painted by Barbara Felix. Barbara, I think I saw you. Would you raise your hand, stand up? Because a lot of the artists who did this talk, because most of the art I'm going to talk about, Barbara either collaborated with me or did it. Barbara hand painted. This is an old Spanish style called comb art. So she paints the back of the glass and then runs a comb through it. So just in that room number, you have hand painted tin and you have comb art. These are our stairway railings. You probably all used them to get up so you don't fall down. Each one of these railings was hand forged by an artist named Ward Brenniger of Harmony Forge. And he actually twisted them on site, made them here. So again, when you are touching a railing, do you stop and think, that's been made by an artist and that is a piece of art? Maybe. Hopefully after this you will. So the next piece is on your wall's left. Those are hand-painted tile murals by a friend of mine named Kelly Jo Kuchar. She's based in Albuquerque and she went to college with me. She did a vast majority, I don't know how many, of New Mexico scenes and hand-painted each of the tiles in our showers and our guest rooms. I would submit to you that's art. In the middle, we have a custom glass light fixture. These were designed by Barbara Felix, and it's reminiscent. Mary Jane Coulter did what she called a hedgehog light, which looked like this, and it also looks like stars. So again, when you walk down the halls and you see the light, you stop and think that that was hand-designed, handmade, and hand-done. And then we'll talk about the headboards. This is in one of our guest rooms. This is an original headboard from, it's 100 years old, Mary Coulter commissioned artist. Unfortunately, we don't have the artist names for a lot of the art, but with our docents and Denny, who are just indefatigable researchers, hopefully we will be able to find out some of the particular artists. So this is a type of art called colcha. Y'all probably know a lot more about this than I do, but it's a northern New Mexico embroidery tradition, and this is on our guest room draperies. So when you're opening your drape in the morning, do you think what you're touching was handmade and hand done by an artist? Again, I submit to you that is art. Okay, so these are our elevators, our guest elevators. These are from the 20s. These were designed by Mary Elizabeth Jane Coulter. We have the Thunderbird at top. Barbara and her crew hand-painted the bullets. Those are all hand-carved. And this picture doesn't depict it very well, but even the light fixture inside our elevator is a hand-blown piece of glass on a jelly mold that Coulter did. So you get into the elevator and you look up, the ceilings are hand-painted, the doors are hand-painted. Again, I submit to you that's art. So these are our Harvey rabbits. They were made again by Ward Brenniger, the same guy that hand twisted all of our railings. They are in homage to Mary Coulter's rabbits. She did antelope, she did burros, and other fixtures. And again, if you go touch them, the texture and the detail work on this is amazing. These are up in our terrace. and it's the stairway railing just to get up to the terrace. These are a mirror and a wayfinding sign. These were done by Coulter in the Coulter days, and Barbara and her team this is a mirror on the right, this is the wayfinding on the left. So these were beat up, they were pretty in bad shape. Barbara's office straightened them out, touched up the paint, and then we, of course, had to renumber every guest room number, so we had to do a new insert. But this is our wayfinding. It's a 100-year-old sign painted by and touched by a lot of artists. So this is just two of our pieces of furniture here. As y'all know, we have a lot of antiques. Sadly, I don't know the artist. I don't know who carved them. This is in northern New Mexico style. But again, when you sit in our chair in our lobby, realize when you're touching that chair, some artist has hand carved the back, all of that. Again, art. More art. So you'll see on the right, I think anybody that's walked through our lobby sees the hand-painted windows. So Mary Coulter started this in the 20s, and then one of our maintenance men, Ernesto Martinez, started painting them as they started breaking. And over the years, Ernesto went from being one of our chief engineers to being an artist. And again, it is folk art, but it's every bit as much art as the Gerald Cassidys, the Paul Lances that are around you, and the Tony Vedas. On the left there's our telephone stand. Again, from the 20s, Mary Coulter, some artists hand punched the tin and painted it, and yet it's the telephone you pick up if you want to talk to a guest in the hotel. So this is, again, some of the magic of Barbara Felix, I've got to say. On the left, that's our guest room door, and around the guest room door, you just don't, I don't know if you can see, it's pretty hard to see. At the top of the transoms, that's from the 20s. That is a Pueblo rain cloud pattern from the 20s. So when we were redoing our renovation, our guest rooms, Barbara you can see the guest room sign that I've already talked about the numbers. Those are cloud patterns around the doors. So if you look to the right, it looks kind of similar. Well, this is how Barbara used wayfinding. This pattern is for guest rooms. The right is for meeting rooms. It's still a Pueblo cloud pattern, but you can see the detail is different. So when you see it, you know you're at a meeting room, and this one you know you're at a guest room. I just think that's magical, that kind of detail, and yet it's all Pueblo cloud patterns from the transom to the guest room to the meeting rooms. And to the left of the meeting room door is a hand-painted, hand-done glass sconce that we have throughout the hotel. Okay, so this is a stairway downstairs. We call it the Mary Jane Coulter Stairway. And I guarantee if you walk by it, you go to the Santa Fe room, if you walked up the stairs, have you ever seen these little tiles in between, I don't know what you call the riser maybe? Those are Mayan inspired. They were inspired by Mayan hieroglyphics by Mary Jane Coulter. And they are part of the stairs you walk on, and yet they were each handmade and hand done by an artist. So you're walking over them every time you go up the stairway. So this is a gate, and any of you have been to our bar, have a few too many or not. This is a gate that was done with collaboration with Pat Pruitt and Marla Allison. And you might just think it's a gate that lets you in and out of the bar. Oh no, you know, Pat hand forged the gate, then Marla hand designed and hand painted the buttes that are in there, and then to top it off, for some of you may not know, they did an outline of me on my horse with my ponytail in the middle of the gate. But that is much art, even though it's a gate and it has a function at Fonda. I submit that this is art as much as the 2D paintings around it. Now this is only reason I'm showing this. So these are cowboy hats that were hand painted, each one by a phenomenal artist. I bought them all at a Swaya auction years ago. I bought every one they would sell. And they are in a circular stairway. It's hard to put a 2D painting, so I thought it would be nice to have the cowboy hats there. Sadly, some of the painting is underneath it, so you can't really see it. We thought about putting mirrors there. But the reason I'm bringing this one up is this tells you the challenge of trying to have fine art in a hotel. So a couple of months ago, we had a rowdy crew from Texas, had a little too much to drink, and somebody pulled the bottom one off. The security hardware is still on it, which shows to us they just ripped the hat off. The hat got ripped to take it, which of course didn't do any good because now they had a ripped hat. But this is, it's tough when you have artists that do these beautiful things, and we want to put them in the public spaces. We have security hardware, and this one, I know I'm a shorty, but this one is really high in all of these hats, and yet, so I'm not sure that I'm going to replace this. This kind of, every day I walk by, it reminds me that we really need to appreciate our art and our artists and protect it, because obviously there's other people that think otherwise. So that's my wall of shame. All right, so this is part of our new terrace walls up in our terrace room, and I didn't even get into the phenomenal room numbers that Barbara and her team did for the terrace. But this is clay plaster on the walls, and it's textural, it's organic, it's just absolutely beautiful. And Barbara designed it, and she just told me when I was getting prepared for this that she actually took the design from a painting of Marla Allison's. So how do we come full circle? These designs are from a painting of Marla's that Barbara designed, but so they are. The corridor walls are all white, and then Barbara has these slashes of organic textural Pueblo pottery designs from Marla Allison. That's to me is art as much as any of our Cassidys. So this is a conundrum for me. This is our ceiling in our concierge area off our lobby. It's brightly painted, and it predates all of our employees, all of our staff, so we don't know who did it. Clearly an artist did it, they made it, they painted it. It's been our ceiling there forever, and maybe one day we'll be able to find out who the artist was. On the right, you will see a fireplace up in our La Terraza room that was hand-painted by our very own Marla Allison. She can tell you what the symbols are, which is pretty amazing because it relates to the fire in the fireplace. But again, I would say that painted fireplace is just as much a valuable piece of art as any of the 2D paintings on the wall. I know this is a busy picture. This is our Santa Fe room, but I wanted to show that. So if you can see the door is surrounded by Arnold Ronenbeck tiles. Now, he is well known, his tile work it's been here since the 20s. But again, it just is a door frame. So people can walk through it and say, oh, it's a door frame. No, it was hand done, hand fired, handmade by an artist. Again, I think that's as much art as anything else we have in the hotel. So this is, yes, it's a mural, so you'll say, yes, that's art. Yes, it's art. But how many of you, when you walk in from San Francisco Street, coming into the lobby, you're looking at people, you're looking at, I'm hungry, I want to get to the restaurant. But it's up in the ceiling along that whole corridor, a Dorothy Stauffer mural that depicts the Spanish coming into Santa Fe. But you do have to look up at the ceiling to see it, but how amazing to have murals that you just walk by when you're coming into the lobby and don't even think twice about. Yet it was painted by a well-known artist. Okay, these are our window boxes. Anybody's been to the bathroom and stood by the window boxes, right? So these are all, I wonder how many of you have ever really looked at them. So you can see in between, there's like a corn motif pattern and the twisted roll that's like our iron railings. Every one of these was hand painted and hand carved by one artist from Gallup. His name is Carlos Gonzalez. Barbara found him, and imagine, y'all have seen those walls of windows, how long it took him to hand carve each one of those windows. Again, I submit art. So these are stained glass and chandeliers up in our terrace. The stained glass skylights was by an artist, Art Takowski, and the tin chandeliers were made by a couple named Ted and Jenny Arianas. They actually also did all of the glass tin chandeliers here in the room. So I know we've all sat through galas and sat in the ballrooms, but how often do you look up at the lights and say an artist hand stamped all of the tin, did the glass, and that's what gives us light to be able to have meetings here. The light fixture on the right is an original Mary Coulter fixture up in one of our guest suites. And Barbara took the rose pattern from that Mary Coulter original light fixture and incorporated it in to, I should have the current one, and that light fixture is now lighting each of our guest rooms. So again, there's a thread from the 20s through today to our art that's in our guest rooms. On the left, blanket boxes, that is art. These are from the 20s, and they were really hurting everybody's shin. You come around the bed and so we took them from the bed and put glass on them and made frames, put them off the floor, and now they're tables. But each one was hand painted in the 20s by an artist, each one of our blanket boxes. So on the right, all of you that come into our parking garage, this was a challenge Barbara and I had. We needed to put some bollards up, but we didn't want to put the normal hotel bollards up that, you see the plastic thing with the chain you see at most hotels. So Barbara found another artist from Acoma named John Saraceno. Not only did he hand carve each one, he's hand painted all of them as well. So when you pull into our parking garage, stop and think. An artist made our bollards, and we are going to continue to honor him and the artists that worked at the hotel. So to wrap this up, which I'm sure y'all are so excited to talk to the artist instead of me, these are our corridor carpets on the left. On the right is our very own Brian Valle, who painted some of our headboards. And I'll talk a little bit about both of those later. So I'm going to now, without more further ado, give a little introduction to my dear friend, Brian Valle. Brian is a dear friend, former governor of Acoma. I first met Brian when he and I served on the SWAIA board together, which was a challenge, and yet we're still friends. And then I was lucky enough to work with him again when he started working with Barbara Felix on our comprehensive 2013 renovation project. I showed you a lot of pictures from that. Brian worked very closely with us as an artist and a designer, contributing his artistry and his creativity to many of our hand-painted headboards, as you see here, and he even worked on the creation of the carpet. They designed the carpet as an homage to the intermixing of cultures that is prevalent in the rest of the hotel. It's the collage of Native American folk art, all of the influences. I think there's corn colors, maize colors. Brian can tell you a lot more about them. But again, that's the corridor carpet that every person walks down the hall when they check into the hotel. So that's why it's so special that he's moderating the panel today. He's got blood, sweat, and tears into this place like we do. Brian was director of the Indian Arts Research Center at the School for Advanced Research here in Santa Fe for 4 years. His work at SAR helped to set new standards for collaboration, education, community engagement, and collection stewardship. He continues to spearhead important initiatives in the field of museology. I didn't even know that was a word. I'm learning, Brian, you're teaching me. And capacity building throughout tribal communities. He left SAR in 2019 when he was asked to serve his community as Pueblo Governor of Acoma, a responsibility that truly reflects his devotion and commitment to his tribal community. Then on December 3rd, 2021, the House of Representatives, that would be the U.S. House, not ours, passed the STOP Act, the Safeguard Tribal Objects of Patrimony, allowing the U.S. to take effective steps to halt overseas auctions of illicitly procured tribal objects of cultural patrimony and to encourage the voluntary return of such items to their rightful owners. As governor, Brian was instrumental in securing the repatriation of the historic Acoma Shield to his people as part of this legislation. So kudos go for Brian for what he has gotten passed and how he's Brian was founding director of Acoma's Haiku Museum and was director of the Historic Preservation in Acoma. He is currently consultant to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, that would be the Met, the Field Museum, the Young Museum, and in his free time, which I don't understand how he has any, he continues to paint. So please join me in a warm welcome to my dear, dear friend, Brian.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this program. And thank you, Jenny, for that pretty amazing introduction. Sometimes I don't realize that, when you build friendship and partnership and meaningful relations, things get expressed that you don't often hear. And I really appreciate that introduction and the opportunity to be part of the Fonda family and to be part of Santa Fe. I'm glad to be back. But we're all here today for a great program. And I'm really honored to have been asked to moderate this panel discussion today with all the rock stars that you see up there on that riser. We want to get right into this afternoon. So I'm going to provide a introduction of each of our panelists. And following those introductions, we will go right into the individual presentations that they'll provide to all of us. And then I'm going to pose some questions to the panelists about issues that we feel collectively are important as we think about Native American art, the place of Native American art in the art world, the place of and the profound impact that art has and Native people and culture and their creativity continues to have in Santa Fe. So I'm going to start with, speaking of dear friends, Marla Allison. Fonda's collection features over 10 pieces by the talented visual artist Marla Allison of Laguna Pueblo. Most recently, a gorgeous river serpent painting surrounding the signature fireplace in La Terraza. Titled Fire and Water, Marla is a visual artist producing work inspired by traditions, cultural displacement, and the human experience. Originally from Laguna Pueblo here in New Mexico, Marla is a frequent traveler and utilizes travel to understand humanity. Marla maintains a lifestyle committed to cultural exchanges that have yielded lectures, murals, illustrations, and art exhibitions. She has produced art in Chiapas, Mexico, Bristol in the United Kingdom, I knew I was going to stumble on these, so I apologize. Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates, Yali in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Manama, Bahrain, Budapest, Hungary, and throughout the United States. During Swaya's 100th Indian Market, she took home a first place ribbon for her painting Heartbeat of the People, and is recipient of numerous awards, including the 2020 Native American Art Magazine Award. In 2008, she won the inaugural Innovation Award at the Santa Fe Indian Market. Please join me in welcoming Marla.
everyone. Thank you all for showing up. It's it's very wonderful to be reunited with everyone here, to see familiar faces and new ones. Thank you. And to be a part of this beautiful hotel with such incredible artwork and with such connection to the land and to the people and to the significance of all the handmade work that really gives the life and the love of everything connected, becoming a showcase here at the hotel that we all get to admire. And it is a great part of the public life and the heart of Santa Fe. I mean, how lucky are we to have our artwork here, to have a presentation here, and to be able to connect on such a wonderful, huge, momentous time of a 100-year celebration. So thank you for letting me be a part of this. Okay, so I'm the painter of this painting, A Hint of Blue. This is a connection of Gustav Klimt's artwork, of Laguna Pueblo pottery design, and all that I come from, which is the traditions of pottery. I did an artist residency at the School of Arts Research in 2010 and did very in-depth research on Laguna Pueblo pottery and Hopi Pueblo pottery, which, similar to what Jenny was talking about with the doorways, is all use of water design. And my family clan is the water clan, so I try and stay with those designs in my paintings. In this painting here, that's also in front of the restaurant. And also the woman, the painting there, that's to the side, which is not only the connection of Pueblo pottery design work, but also the imagery. This painting has the photography inclusion of Lee Marmon, who is a great dear friend, a mentor, and he gave huge history to and significance to what Laguna is. And to be able to continue that for him and with him, it's an honor. And so that painting is part of what I thought to bring, to give his homage as well. And this recent painting to my right is called The Heartbeat of the People. This painting is a photograph that Lee Marmon took, which is of John Riley, who's a drummer from Laguna Pueblo. And I thought to make this one especially for this show because we've been so separated with COVID, with the difficulties of just human life that we've all gone through, and to reconnect for the Santa Fe Indian Market, to hear the songs again throughout the streets and the alleys and the feast days that are starting to come back and bring life again to all that's sacred and with rains, with all of life. It's sorry. It's what I've put everything into for my paintings. And for this piece to win in the first place at this 100-year Santa Fe Indian Market is it's a career win for me, and I'm glad to share it with you all. So to continue with the slides, this painting is one of a friend of mine. His name is Leonard. His nickname is Leonard Skinner because that's his favorite band. But his name is Leonard, and he was my neighbor. We would talk all the time, and he would build the rock walls of Laguna in the village I used to live in of Hawaii. And I thought he was just a great guy, amazing, full-blooded Laguna, which is very rare these days. It truly is. There's not many people that can say they are a full-blooded tribal member. So I thought to commemorate that in a painting of him, and he sat for me, and I was able to capture his essence. And he was wearing tennis shoes, but I changed them into what I thought would be a little more connected. Added some moccasins to his feet, which he loved, and he was very happy to be now a professionally paid model that lives in Laguna. So he gets to carry that title. And this painting is thanks to Edward S. Curtis, who took this photo. But this also signifies my roots of being also a part Hopi Pueblo, and just goes back to roots and home, but also brings it into a contemporary light of what artwork can do. And I don't know, lets me carry on a stronger message of, you know, the significance of the human portrait. I mean, it tells so much more of a story than than I can explain. It says so much more that you get to carry on, and you get to feel. And this painting is almost like that secret little whisper of a sister to another. Called Love. Sorry, I'm getting all emotional. It's been a very long time to be able to talk in front of people, so sorry about all this excitement inside me, but it's a good thing. So bringing it back in here to La Fonda, right into these front doors, I was able to collaborate with Mateo Romero, who's also a great mentor of mine, painter. His work is in the Fonda collection as well. And my friend Ryan Singer, who's from Albuquerque, his work is in the La Fonda as well, in these set of triptych paintings that are right in front of the ballroom doors. Each piece is, they're all individually movable pieces, and so we painted them side by side so they would be a true collaboration, a connection of all our work. And the great part is that when I made them, I cut each piece and then put Velcro on the back side of them. So when we laid them all out and used Mateo's style of painting and Ryan's style of painting and my own with the pottery kind of intermixed, we were able to make these to where they could interchange from one side to another and still match up with colors. So it gives a huge, any number of changes that it can be seen, but also it's all the same image of, you know, this beautiful woman with the pottery. Leslie Elkins, who is also a model from, I believe, Cochiti, and she was also Virgil Ortiz's main model for quite a number of years. And now I think she changed her name and had a baby, and life continues for her, but thankfully she was able to model for us. And last, this is a painting that is now on view at King Gallery. The title is The Archer. This is influence of the painting that's downstairs that has the woman with the gold dress. This is a crop of it. The full image has a full dress. But this woman is kind of, I don't want to say it's a self-portrait, but it is a self-portrait. In case you didn't notice. I posed for it and everything. This is my interpretation of Orion, of the Pathfinder. And with all of the artist residencies that I've been fortunate to do in Abu Dhabi, in Saudi Arabia, in Bristol, the UK, it's allowed me to travel to multiple countries and share who I am, where I come from, and bridge the understanding of what Native America is to places where they think we're completely extinct. So thanks to art, it allows all of us to go further than what we think is this little homeland, and grow our path and our territory further. And it's it's with gratitude that I'm able to be up here and to tell you all about it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Marla. I think I first met Marla when I was working on this project, the renovation of Fonda, and was so excited. The first painting that she shared with us in her slide, I saw that and I thought, I didn't think it was Native American art. And when I learned that it was, I was like, oh my goodness, this is just incredible. And then realized she was working on other projects for the hotel, including some of the things that she showed today. What an accomplished artist, and I just love the connection that she has to her own home and her culture and her people. I was fortunate a couple of years ago for my parents' 53rd wedding anniversary, commissioned a piece for them, and she created a beautiful painting for them, which my mom just loves and reminds us all the time that it will stay in the family home. Roxy, who is my sister, and Allison, who my sister, she tells them, do not take this painting from the house. It will stay here. So thank you again, Marlo, for adding to my mom and dad's the beauty of their home. Next, I want to introduce Jordan Craig. Jordan is a Northern Cheyenne artist, born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. Fonda's collection features 10 of her bold, symbolic paintings inspired by Cheyenne and Northern Cheyenne beadwork and pottery, including many on display in this very ballroom. And if we all look to my left, we have 3 of Jordan's paintings there on the wall. She uses painting, printmaking, and collage to create intricate patterns, abstract landscapes, and graphic geometrics. She draws inspiration from indigenous textiles, beadwork, pottery, and landscapes. Jordan studied studio art and psychology at Dartmouth College. Recipient of various honors, Jordan was most recently recognized as an Art Kala Honored Artist by the Kala Art Institute at University of California, Berkeley. In 2019, she was Artist in Resident at the Institute of American Indian Arts and was named the Roswell Artist in Residence Fellow. I had the pleasure of meeting Jordan when she came to SAR as a Undugan or Dobkin Fellow, and watched her create some of these pieces that are on the wall here, but other incredible pieces where she was inspired by the Pueblo pottery collection at SAR. Very proud of this young lady and all that she's accomplished in her very early career. And with that, I give you Jordan Craig.
Hi, everyone. Hi, thank you so much, Brian and Jenny and everyone for being here today. I'm Jordan Ann Craig. I'm Northern Cheyenne, and I actually live in Milwaukee Valley now, so I'm local. And this is actually one of my paintings outside of my painting studio, and yeah. So I like to begin all my talks talking about my family, because that's my comfort zone. And here's me and my sister Madison. I'm the oldest of 2 younger sisters. And this is pre-dining table at my parents' first home in California when we were little. I'm in purple, Madison is in the little moon outfit. And one thing that we really had growing up was art, and my parents made a big effort to bring art into our lives, whether that was extra art classes, art supplies for Christmas, dolls to dress them up with my mom's handmade clothing. We had a really creative upbringing. My dad built all the furniture in my home. My mom She would compete with us over art projects and sew our clothing. So I was really lucky to have a very rich upbringing in the arts. There's my mama, Bridget Claire Johnson, in her favorite knit sweater. She grew up in Montana. She's Northern Cheyenne. And here's my mom and dad camping. So as you can see, I'm a mixed baby. My father's Eastern European Norwegian, my mother's Northern Cheyenne and Zuni. And yeah, they loved camping. And then here are my two gorgeous younger sisters, Bailey with the blonde mullet, and then Madison right in the middle. And I'm super lucky. They're actually both in town right now, but they're working, so they couldn't make it. So I work closely with my sisters. They're a huge point of inspiration for my artwork, and my family is everything for me. And here's a Polaroid picture I took of them yesterday, so I included it. I was very lucky that Bailey, the baby sister, was my assistant for almost 2 years. And oh man, I don't know how I'll ever replace her. She's moved away, but she's incredible. She moved in with me in Roswell right when the pandemic hit and quickly became my rock in Roswell. And she was the one that like yanked me off the couch and was like, we have to be painting. And so I was like, okay. So here she is, I think, sanding a canvas and posing in her jumpsuit. So before I get into my current work, I should talk about why I'm even here, which is through the School for Advanced Research. I was the Eric and Barbara Dobkin Fellow in 2018. And before that, a lot of people told me, you know, you would really like New Mexico, Jordan, or you should check it out. So I'm trying to figure out my career, didn't know how to do it, fresh out of college, and I was awarded this pretty great fellowship. And it brought me to New Mexico. They gave me a flight, and a stipend, and a house. And my mom was like, you take the flight, I'll drive the car. And she picked me up at the Santa Fe Regional Airport, and I was in New Mexico. And it immediately felt so different for me, but especially coming from the Bay Area, it was just so beautiful. And my mom, like we just immediately went thrifting, and we loved being here. And my mom just saw the opportunity and was like convinced, okay, I think you could do this. So I got the opportunity to study Pueblo pottery, and I was first going to study like through a lot of the collection, but after seeing the room of pottery, I was like, okay, I'm going to focus in on just this. And I made a proposal that was, I'm going to study the pottery and make hard-edged paintings. And I actually followed through and made 11 paintings, and 3 of which are displayed prominently in this gorgeous ballroom. So it's a huge honor to also see events here, and I see pictures of my paintings in the background, and they're just really beautiful all together. So that's when I met Brian, because he was the director. And I remember when he came into my studio when I was presenting all of the work, and he was just like, you did all of these? Like, what, you were busy for 3 months. And he introduced me to Jenny, and then Jenny, oh man, that 10-minute meeting was one of the best meetings of my life. I remember, I think you called Barbara on the phone, and she's like, you're gonna love her. You're gonna love this girl. And we quickly all became very good friends. So I'm so lucky to be in this collection. And yeah, so after this fellowship, I finally I decided to study exclusively Cheyenne beadwork, and I'm still on this road of studying my own tribal beadwork. And so I'm just gonna go through some of the images I study. I'm a total nerd, I study a lot, and these are the gorgeous images that I'm lucky to be able to look at all the time. So a lot of stripes, a lot of color. So very different than studying at the School for Advanced Research's collection, because all of a sudden I'm dealing with pink and yellow and blue, and not just off-white and, you know, very natural colors, which I'm still so very drawn to. So what I do with these is I study them, I abstract these designs, and I make my own digital renderings. And then I make paintings that I meticulously translate onto canvas. So here's one of the digital renderings, and if you've kind of wandered around the Fonda, you might recognize this piece. It's in the corner in this little cute nook that's very cozy. And here's that painting in process when I was a fellow at IAIA in 2019. And you can actually see that bird. This is my ladybugs or bird painting. Ooh, I think I have a pointing. I don't know how to point, sorry. I'm not gonna try. But the painting to the left, that is my last painting I actually have available from that fellowship. And I actually still have it because it's my lucky painting. And you can see that just how different, studying different cultural backgrounds can be, especially when it comes to making paintings of these objects. So I was making pink paintings and blue paintings, and it was really fun. And both of these two paintings are actually in Fonda's collection, and this deep navy stripe blue painting from a baby carrier is right by the offices. I go visit that one sometimes. It's really nice. In the stairway. So here's just kind of a nice studio shot at my fellowship at IAIA to give you a little glimpse of the chaos. So fast forward, this is all out of order. 2020, I was the fellow at the Roswell Artist in Residence program. It was a huge honor to be part of this fellowship. It's the oldest artist residency program left of the Mississippi or something like that. It's been around since the 60s, and I am one of the first Indigenous artists to ever receive this fellowship. Huge thank you to Larry Bob Phillips for, opening these doors. He actually wrote School for Advanced Research being like, we need contemporary Native artists to apply to this program. We are a contemporary art program. And I put in my little application, and sure enough, I left my sister's couch in Oakland, California, and I had a 1-year-long fellowship to really explore and paint big. And this fellowship provided me a solo show at the Roswell Arts Museum, and so here's a shot at that museum show. Here's Bailey taping it up. So I'm going to go through a quick example of what I studied. So here's a pair of gorgeous white moccasins, and I simplified this painting down to the grid structure. And I make really abstract work, by the way. I don't know if anyone got that, but here's a final piece of that painting. Really clean. And this painting is called Clean Like White Moccasins. Here's another example of just the process. These are made with oil paint and Q-tips. I'm gonna go really quick this because I only have like 1 minute. So here's some new works between 2021 and 2022. So you can kind of get a sense of what I'm doing. I use a lot of tape and acrylic paint to make these, and these are all quite large. Yeah, these two are currently displayed at the show at CCA right now, so if you do get a chance to go to that museum show, it was incredible, and it's going to be up through November. And I don't have too much time to talk about it, but I actually have a side hustle. I'm the co-founder of the lingerie line Shy Natives, and me and my sister have a lingerie line. Maybe you've heard about it. I designed this pattern on that bodysuit, and me and my sister have been working towards this for 5 years. And I'm very proud to say that we launched our Kickstarter 2 weeks ago, and we're at 200 and something% funding. So it's not too late to put in your orders. But we make everything from t-shirts, earrings, and proudly the first Indigenous run lingerie line. Completely designed, tailored, made by my sister. So this is an incredible project that really connects me to Santa Fe, to New Mexico, to other Indigenous folks. So this is a really, really big project. And here's some photos I take, because I get to play photographer too. And then lastly, it's a project I get to do with my sisters to bring it all back. So thank you so much.
I'm Cody Sanderson. I'm Navajo, based out of Santa Fe, New Mexico. I've been here for 27 years, maybe 28 years. I'm very, very fortunate to be here. I love it here. I'm originally out of Winter Rock, Arizona. just a res boy. My first company, I called it Res Dog, and Res Dog Incorporated, and we had a great time, and my CPA said just change it to my name, and I like Res Dog better. But anyway, I guess my website has music on it. I didn't know that. So I do primary jewelry, but I've also gone into fashion. I've gone into pottery, some ironwork, and a number of different things. And just like Brian, when he did the rugs, I want to do the same thing. Whether it's an outfit that you top has great patterns, it can be translated to anything. Like Jordan's, her lingerie, I mean, it translates everywhere. And I'm a firm believer, if not, why not you? Why not me? Why not, any of you? Everyone has a particular idea in regards to fashion or design, but sometimes they don't even know it. So, with this funky music and this great music going on in the background that I didn't know on my website because I only look at it on my phone. I've never seen it on the computer. So as you can see, I do work with some feathers here, and then how bracelet up here. It's based on a war bonnet, or some people say it's like a dress too. So whatever they want to believe it, that's great. It's like when I used to sell art, to say, is this a mountain lion? Is this a bear? And I said, well, what's it look like to you? Oh, it looks like a bear to me. Well, then that's what it is. Same with my bracelet. You want to make it look like a war bonnet, or you want it to think it's a skirt or something like that, go right ahead. So let me see if I can do this here. We have this to the right, to the left. Okay, here we go. There's some dog tags that I have here. And these are two-sided dog tags. And it's actually an NFT, I believe. And it says FU, fun time, And then on the bottom it says fight for peace.
Good.
So instead of, a lot of things I do are not too serious. They're not really in depth. They don't have a lot of, I don't do a lot of political satire. I don't do, religious things. If it looks like something, looks like a skull and a star, that's what it is. There's no in-depth thought on it. It's fun. Here's another one. Oops, where'd that thing go? So this is a photo shoot that we did in Paris. And how did I get back over here? So I'm so fortunate that my jewelry has allowed me to travel different parts of the world. There was a time before the pandemic, I was doing at least like 5 times around the world every year. About 125,000 miles to 130,000 miles a year. And I was always somewhere. But due to the pandemic, I didn't mind staying home because it was really, really nice to be here. I migrated into some of these pottery. Some of them are completely, totally hand done, almost coiled. They're not done here. I will not lie and I will not say, oh, I make every single piece by myself. I do have help with people doing these things. And I will let other people know that. And some of them are done internationally. I do know artists who have done pieces outside the country, but they swear up and down, oh, it's done in my backyard, it's done here. That integrity lack of integrity will catch up with them. I'm an open book to a lot of my techniques, my style, my ideas, and all you have to do is ask me. So there's a pottery. This is my opening. We just had this about 2 weeks ago in Taipei, Taiwan. This is my new store. There's my son, that's me, that's one of my jackets. That's my name. And here it is again. So this is the store, so we have all the interviews, and we have local media, local celebrities, local cat, so doing a signing, doing all things. He's a celebrity, model, actor, he's not. So everything has continuous Cody Sanderson. I'm shameless in myself and my self-promotion. I mean, all of these things are coming, but it's all designs based on what I did with jewelry. Shoes, camping gear, pots. This guy, champagne, this is a bottle of champagne that we produced, and it was really exciting. It's a great time. This is outside when they did a preview, and we were promoting the store too. That's my son Brandon. Nice to meet you on dance. And that's the model. So, I do live a great life. I'm really, really am blessed. As you can see, I say that I do know who butters my bread too. So I do know that all of this will go away, and I do appreciate each and every one of you for being here, taking your time out of your life to come see us and enjoy it. So thank you very much. I appreciate you guys.
That was awesome. Thank you, Cody. I finally have a Cody Sanderson ring. I searched all over the place for one, and finally. So next, I know we have Cody kind of linked.
Pues Hagaruyu Nukero Romero Niega Nupatzats Nupapao. Thank you so much for joining us today on this Friday afternoon at the beautiful quintessential La Fonda in Santa Fe. I'm so honored to be here presenting with all of you, and I wanted to share a little biography and a little bit of the work that I do. And I'm really honored to be here with all of you today. And here, of course, living on one of the most beautiful places in the world, Santa Fe, on Pueblo lands. I was born to interracial parents in Los Angeles in what's known as the South Bay, so Redondo, Inglewood, California. And in 1979, my whole family, grandparents, parents, aunts and uncles, brothers and sisters, and animals moved and relocated from the Los Angeles area to the Chemehuevi Valley Indian Reservation deep in the heart of the Mojave Desert. It's about 70 miles from Laughlin, Nevada, about 55 miles from Needles, California. We reside on the California waterfront of Lake Havasu, which was once just the mighty Colorado River. We are known as the finest of the Great Basin basket weavers. We still participate in basket weaving culture and gathering annually. We weave our baskets on a 3-rod foundation with white willow and devil's claw. And we still work with intergenerational cultural transmission to keep these practices alive, but there are not very many basket weavers left at Chemehuevi. We have a often female-dominated government at Chemehuevi. I grew up with my grandmother as chairwoman of our tribe. I have also served on our tribal council prior to moving back to Santa Fe in 2009. All of that to say, Chemehuevi women are taught from a very young age their innate strength, as well as a courage to be strong and to speak up for what they believe in. When my parents split, we ended up moving to Houston, Texas with my mom's side of the family that had relocated from Southern California to Houston. I ended up in a majority-minority school district in Houston, which was quite the culture shock moving from the rural reservation, which was kind of like the 30s and the 40s. We just played along the river all day and we all knew each other. There were only about 30 to 40 homes back
back then in the 80s. And one of the things that I learned really early on, in probably a very painful way, like many Native students in public school systems, is that there is a lot of stereotyping, a lot of racism that Native Americans face in the public school system. It starts on Columbus Day, it starts at Thanksgiving. But I think it's really shocking to be in public school and realize how the rest of America perceives us. How they often perceive us as stereotyped, as racist mascots, as something that is historic and bygone, which when we have lived experience, nothing is further from the truth. Our cultures and our people are thriving. We continue to heal from intergenerational trauma and ongoing colonization. And so I always wanted to tell that story. And like Brian said, I knew from my lived experience all of the beautiful stories that had been passed down by the people in my family that had just kind of been erased the last 100 years, that didn't show up in school or in Hollywood or any kind of depictions of this real lived experience, these beautiful people that I grew up with. And so I did. I started out in cultural anthropology. I thought I would be a Native studies professor, or maybe I would write books about Chinese that I had never seen. But it turns out I'm not really an academic or a scholar. And I stumbled into a black and white photography class while getting a liberal arts cultural anthropology degree at the University of Houston. And I met one of those people that really changes your life, one of those professors. He emphasized content over technical ability. It took me a long time to catch up to being a technically refined photographer, but I had a lot to say. And I realized the power of photography very early on to be able to tell a modern story for Native peoples that I was really interested in telling. And so I did what 22-year-olds do, and I ran off to IAIA. I came here in 1999, and I studied black and white film. I was one of the first classes at the new campus on the edge of town. We studied large format. We worked in silver gelatin in the dark room, and there weren't very many of us at that time working in the medium, in the medium of photography. At that time, many of us were working with how Native photography had been defined from outside of the culture, looking at work by Edward Curtis in black and white sepia tone prints. We went out and did figurative landscapes, often devoid of any modern context, but were very beautiful. I worked in Oklahoma after that. And I even worked with my family that would become my family 20 years later. After I graduated from the Institute of American Indian Arts, there was a lot happening in the industry. For one, digital had emerged, and the fine art photographers were at a crossroads for whether they would stay with the silver gelatin and film medium, or if they would embrace digital. In the early 2000s, it was really felt that digital was really only for commercial photographers, for use on computers. It certainly hadn't caught up with film and its beauty and its resolution, with that beautiful organic fall off that we see in 35mm or medium format film. And so I wasn't sure what to do, because if I was going to stay in photography and try and make a living, I either had to stay in the dark room and not learn commercial, or learn commercial and forever let go of the dark room. And I decided to embrace digital. I went back and got a vocational degree at Oklahoma State University in Okmulgee, Oklahoma, and received an applied science degree in photography technology. In that interim, I think I really began to find my voice. I began to pull out from making work that was in historical context, that was in black and white film, and really began to embrace my contemporary identity of being both urban and reservation, of working in both film and digital, and found my strength in color and story. And when I found my voice sang. And it was really a joyous moment for me as a young artist, because not only had I found my voice, but it was very well received within my own community. And my artwork, my first audience is other Native people, so that we can see ourselves represented in a way where other Native people know that photograph must have been taken that Native person. It was not a taking, it was the antithesis or the counter-narrative to the exploited nature of photography. It was really meant to be in service to my own community, to tell stories that I felt wanted to be told, to really place us in modern context and not just be about what people were interested in about our culture or cultural privacy, but instead say, hey, we're here and we understand biblical stories and we read about Western art and we are very contemporary and live in modern times. And sometimes within these stories, the mythos comes with the stories, and that is very purposeful. It's meant to be about how we bring all of our indigeneity through time with us and kind of throw out that linear time. And oftentimes in my photographs, how everything kind of exists all at once. With that, there's a lot of pop culture reference. I feel like it works cross-culturally with sense of humor, and then again to also place us in a contemporary context. For each of us as Native peoples, the landscapes where we come from is deeply important. It's where our bones are from. So you will see a lot of my home reservation life appear in my photographs. I still go home often for our cultural celebrations and just to be with community. My father and family live there. I like to portray a little bit of res life where I'm from. I also like to talk about our Indigenous worldview and how women are of the earth and how we're made of the body of woman. I like to show off our bird singing and our Southern California cultural traditions. In learning about the power of photography and incorporating narrative into my work, it also became deeply important to me to talk about colonial impacts to our environment, both historically and in contemporary context. So you will see artwork that references damming of rivers, flooding of valleys, of climate change and impacts to our lands where we suffer in disproportionate ways to the impacts of climate change. How we ended up on chunks of clay and they found oil. And how infrastructure still being developed in the name of solar energy and in big energy development often goes into the backyard of people of color. I like to tell stories about California because that's where I'm from, although I do a lot of intertribal work because I'm here in this beautiful community of intertribal artwork and kind of our own intertribal tribe here in Santa Fe. I tell stories about how places like LA are still holy places and how the people of Southern California lost their lands in the name of gold and oil and never received their federal recognition. I also do a lot of work about that inner strength of Native women, showing that we still have medicine and mythos and life-giving power. I think it's a really powerful shift to have a woman behind the camera. I like to celebrate our diversity and all of the things that exist against all odds, and a lot of celebration of diversity in an educational way. So a lot of my photographs have a lot of thick context about where these women are from and a lot of editorial value. And as we pulled ourselves out of historical context and into contemporary context, and as many of us have healed and find ourselves in contemporary times, in a time of growing health and wellness, comes the genre of Indigenous futurism. And for the first time, many of us are imagining and speculating what the future might look like alongside other cultures that have been doing it for a long time. I imagine that the world will need the knowledge of Indigenous women in order to survive. the hearts, the minds, and the life-giving power of Native women, of bringing all of our old things with us into the future. And a great imagining of, while many cultures are just imagining technological advances, we'll be taking all of our very, very old things with us. This is the most recent photograph of the 50th, 60th celebration of both the Institute of American Arts as well as the Museum of Contemporary Native American Art. And these are 41 artists that have graduated from that school. Thank you so much.